You've done this before, and I'm sure you are. If we call you again, you always want to come, because the essence of coming is when you know that whatever you're giving out, people are gaining from it, and they are growing from it over time, and which is the most important thing. Unfortunately, before you came in earlier, our two moderators, they were discussing about last year events, and they were using your words against each other among the singles and the couples. It shows that we've learned one or two things over the past years. I want to thank you so much for coming. And Dr. Ajay, this is your first time you are with us. We say thank you very much. Jazakumullah khairan. My Honorable Commissioner, thank you so much for coming. And inshallah, I'll read some of the few questions that our audience, they have quite a lot of questions, of course, as usual. But I'll just pick some of them randomly and I'll ask the question. But before I go ahead, I would like to start. I would have loved to start this way. Maybe I should start this way. Though I have tons of questions for our Honorable Commissioner. Don't worry, sir, you are safe. But I would like to start with you, Ajia. Last year, you gave us how the whole thing started. You repeated it this year again, telling us your fantasies and the realities of what happened to you. And I think I remember asking you that question last year. That turning point that you had in your marriage, what happened? What gave you the audacity to say, at this point, we need to sit down and solve this problem? Because it wasn't rosy. You told us it got to a point that you were like thinking divorce. You go your way, I go my way. What happened? What changed?
It was at that time when I mentioned my husband said he didn't look forward to coming home to me. It came as a huge shock because all that time I was pointing fingers. He was the problem as far as I was concerned. And there is a common saying, what you focus on grows. And I kept focusing on his faults. I kept focusing on what I felt he wasn't doing right. I kept focusing on him not fulfilling my fantasies, which obviously were fantasies. And you cannot bring fantasies to life if you are quarrelsome, if you are argumentative, if you are gaslighting, and if there's toxicity in the home. So it had, for me to bring my fantasies to life, I needed to be the fantasy. I needed to become what I always wanted to see in my husband, which I wasn't. Because of the fights, things got really nasty. Things became dirty. I became mean. I became vindictive. I was angry. I wanted blood. And I felt every time, if I felt he behaved badly, I mirrored his bad behavior. And nothing like that could ever solve problems. So when he said he didn't look forward to coming home to me, I needed to do the introspect, which is why I started my talk by saying, you need to learn self-awareness and emotional intelligence, because these are two things that will help you know yourself, know your triggers, know your weaknesses, but also know your strengths. And then emotional intelligence helps you regulate your spouse, know when is the right time to raise issues, and be able to address them in the most constructive way that he will listen and will be willing to change. So I sat my husband down and I asked him, 3 questions were really what saved my marriage. The first question was, and for the first time I kept my big mouth shut and I took down notes, and I asked him, what is it about me that I'm doing that you don't like, you want me to stop? The second question, what am I doing right that you want me to continue? And the third question is, what is it we're not doing in this relationship that you want us to start? And wallahi, this changed the relationship because I took down notes. What I heard was not pleasant. And I had to put my ego aside to hear constructive feedback, because it's about the beholder. It's not about my perception of who I am and what I'm doing and me saying, oh, but I didn't mean that. That doesn't matter if the goods are not delivered in the way that the person will receive them right. So I listened intentionally to understand. So as they say, seek first to understand and then be understood. And alhamdulillah for me, my husband has more sense than I have. And he asked me to do the same with him. So being able to be humble enough. We are 12 years apart, my husband and I. I got married at 18.
Wow.
And alhamdulillah, for him with his age gap between him and I, to ask this small girl, who know they hear what, to give him feedback and be honest. And We were both brutally honest. We wanted to make sure we unpacked exactly how we felt about what we didn't like. But we both, for me, I asked him, be patient with me. I know I talk too much and I have a big mouth and I'm unfiltered. A lot of these habits are ingrained from childhood because somebody did not correct it. My mother being British, the British are very blunt. They say things as they are. And sometimes they don't even mean any harm. They just say it because that's the thought. But it doesn't work in marriage. And my mom, who was not the way I was, when she picked her words carefully, and I started to learn to change my style. And I asked him to be patient with me because we needed to come up with a code. So my husband would have a way where if I'm talking too much when we're amongst people, he would squint his eyes a bit, meaning put your brakes, or he would sometimes use his hand like this to say, slow down. You're talking too much, you're dominating. Calm down, girl. And I started to take these cues. It didn't happen overnight. It took years. But alhamdulillah, we've reached the stage where just from an eye contact, we know what we are trying to say. And that's how it evolved. So it's the intentionality that I want to change, and let me start with me.
That's very good. It's also intentional for me to ask you questions about marriage, because you started by saying you were focusing more, they told you to focus more on the singles. And the reason why I asked this is because it's about the commitment, just like you said. It's about the commitment to it. So it means that couples should be committed to what they are doing, and they should be intentional about it as well. And I think this is a very good one. It's a take home personally for me. I've noted this long time ago. It has to be intentional. And I also think some of our audience will also take this home. Doctor, if I want to swing into the life of the singles, everybody has this fantasy to be honest, and you have something you want in your mind as an individual. At what point do you say, okay, between what I want in a man or a woman and what Allah wants for me, at what point do you say, okay, let me just go for this? Because at the moment, a lot of sisters are like, the reason why they are single is not because they want to be single. They are not like, sure, is it the right guy? And the brothers too, just like I won't mention him, will also say, I've seen several sisters. The sister is good now, she's well behaved, she has good deen. Why don't you? And the brother is like, I'm not sure. At what point do our singles say, okay, at this point, let me just take one, do my istikhara, and move on in life? At what point? That's my question.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted you to learn. I think we should all not forget that sometimes marriage is black market.
Thank you. I like that word, black market.
You can't celebrate everything. You can't always wrap your head around everything. You can't always have it all straightened out. You can't always get it right. People are not tailor-made. People are not perfect. You can know something about somebody today, and because of the passing phases of the person's life, tomorrow the person might change.
Allahu Akbar.
But I believe also that marriage has to do with destiny sometimes. Sometimes marriage is just trial for some people. You want to try, you have read so many books, you've listened to so many lectures, you are very smart and brilliant. Haven't you seen how smart people make dumb choices? Very intelligent lady will just marry a brother who you just be like, you will not be able to say it. You just you be like, when you see them together or you see the way they behave, a very nice lady will just marry a brother who is so snobbish, who doesn't care about her, who treats her like trash.
Yeah.
And the other way around too.
Absolutely.
You see a very nice brother, sunnah, all of those things. Then he will just marry one lady like that. You feel like, well, where did they even meet them? There's somebody who visited the house of one great person. Sometimes it's a story that scholars told us. This man, very ugly. Sorry, I'm using that word. And then the lady, very beautiful. So they visited their home, and then one of them couldn't help but say, so beautiful and your husband is not really. She said, yes, my husband is not good looking. That's what you want to say. Say, I didn't want to use the whole of my mouth to say it. She said, and this is one thing that may be important to us. She said, perhaps there are some sins I've committed. And Allah decided to punish me with marrying this kind of man. And perhaps there are some good deeds he has done that Allah wants to reward him with somebody like me.
Allahu Akbar.
So don't expect the perfection. Marriage is managed. So whoever comes your way, sometimes because we don't have much people around, we settle for whoever we see. And let me see if I can wrap it up like this. Settling for who we see, who we know, who is around us, sometimes will be all we have to do. If you have one thing, you don't have any choice. If you have two things, you have dilemma. If you have three things, you have trilemma. It is when you have four that you can make choices.
Allahu Akbar.
So many of the ladies actually don't have choices. Many of you will not agree to marry us if you had choice of a better person. And many of you brothers too, you not marry the sister you are looking at to marry if other ladies had agreed that they would even want to say wa alaikum salam to your salam.
Allahu Akbar.
Sometimes it just happens like that. We don't look wide and far. Sometimes people don't present options to us. Sometimes we expect to go hunting for spouses by ourselves, which is very difficult to do nowadays when anybody can filter and pretend to be anything. This is my own old school way of advising you ladies and gentlemen. Let there be some people that can maybe front for you or investigate on your behalf or recommend somebody for you. I hope you understand. Like my sister here, I think she does all of this to people looking for husband and wife sometimes if they are not too, if they are serious. She only look into very serious people. Imagine somebody come to me and says, Salam alaikum stars, I need a wife, I want to marry now. I want her to be tall, to be slim, to be fair, 2 dimples, no pimples. She has to be, then she has to have a follow comb in the front, and she has to have factory fitted at the back. You know those kind of things. A brother is telling you some things that you'll be like, who's will be like, am I watching pornography? So you see people who think like that, nobody will take them serious. But the moment you want to be serious, and you put your trust in Allah, and you do shura, that's you do consultation with people who know somebody, who knows a person that knows another person that has studied you and that knows her or that knows him very well, then you cannot begin from there. I'm happy that Ansar-ud-Deen does something like that.
MashaAllah, I was about to say that.
And there's nothing wrong if between Ansar-ud-Deen and Ansar-ud-Deen you marry each other. You know, if I say single brothers should stand up now, single sisters should stand up now, all of you marry each other, you start quoting verses for me. So at the point where a person will say, yes, I found the right person, the processes are long, but it's not that difficult. The iman you will have in Allah, the trust you have in Allah, and your own investigation about who you are should be very, very essential. And mostly, we don't really know who we are yet until you meet somebody else.
MashaAllah.
Until you meet a very wicked husband. That's when you know whether you are patient or not. Until you marry a very caring wife. That's when you know, so I have value like this.
Allah Akbar.
So a woman can, want you to wash my hands before eating amala. And then she will bring water for me to wash my hands. She will hold it like this. Some brothers were discovering that for the first time, that so I am such an important and honorable person. So let it be that you look for someone who has the potential of bringing the best out of you. However, if you make a mistake, accept that you have made a mistake. If you need to opt out, there's divorce. Never enter into an entrance that doesn't have an exit.
MashaAllah. Don't go into an entrance that does not have an exit. Ajay, you want to add to that?
For the singles, I want to add to what my brother just said, and I feel what he ended with is exactly what I had hoped to hear, because Marriage is not do or die. It's highly encouraged in Islam, but it's not compulsory. Don't settle for one guy just because you didn't have options. Don't make that mistake. You're gonna go down. Divorce is hard. For those who have been divorced, they will tell you it's shattering. It's devastating. It has a domino effect on other family members. So don't make the mistake of just out of desperation going with somebody who does not meet your requirements. Having said requirements, though, your expectations should be realistic. Like he said, there's no bespoke spouse, but you should have some non-negotiables. One of those can be, they must be God conscious and God fearing. If they are that, I can tell you, you have the foundation, inshallah, of nurturing a beautiful relationship. So you should have certain things that you cannot compromise. If they don't pray with their salat, they are compassionate, they are kind. Maybe they don't have the tall, they are not loaded, they don't have the complexion you want. Well, like that's superficial. My father said to me when I was young that if I'm looking for something shining, it will fade. And if I think I'm shining, I will fade. So for me, that physical, yes, even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam encourages us to look and see what we are attracted to. However, let the looks not be number one. It's the character of the person. And there's no such thing as compatibility. You become compatible as the relationship progresses. But there's nobody that you say is follow come your soulmate. You nurture that first by doing your premarital right. And then when you get into the relationship, you now make sure you're married to your best friend. But please, for Allah's sake, don't settle due to pressures or out of desperation or say, I must get married. I want to get married because I don't want to commit zina. I want to get married because I want to have children. I want to get married because all my friends, relatives, siblings are married. I'm the last man standing. Wallahi, you will be miserable. Don't go into marriage out of desperation. That was what I wanted to add.
Thank you very much, Ajia. Thank you. That's very important. You don't go into marriage out of desperation, and this happens a lot. Which brings me to my honorable commissioner. I like one of your words when you were speaking. You mentioned that you are good enough. Don't think less of yourself, which is very important. But I've heard in the news very recent when the UK police were advising Nigerian women that they should stop reporting their husbands. And each time this happens abroad, what happens next is they arrest the husband, they put them out of the house, and they take over the house. A friend of mine also in Texas did a program where he mentioned, it was an interview where he mentioned that why is it that all the nurses in the US are taking over the family heritage in terms of properties and sending away their husbands? And the woman in the interview was trying to say, no, you don't know what is happening. There's a lot happening before that time. So my question is this Japa syndrome and marital life, especially the youth, we know that's what's happening now. Everybody is jack buying. And we're talking about marriage. How do you think we can sustain that the cultural heritage of marriage, especially as Muslims and as young ones that are thinking of, I want to jackpot. And I know it's your area of specialty when it comes to the youth. How do you think the youth can sustain their marriage once they are out of the shores of Nigeria?
You always like setting me up.
I'm actually expecting it from the point of view of some of the engagements you've had in the past. And I know the Ministry of Youth and Social Development have had quite an engagement with us in the past, while myself, Malam Idris, and the rest of us were still very young with them. So we do have these engagements, and we still talk about, okay, what happens to us when we leave the shores of Nigeria? Do we remain the way we are supposed to be, just like our fathers and mothers were saying to us? Or when we get there, we become, now I am an independent woman. If you mess up, I'll report it to the police.
So, for me, right, I lived in England for about 8 years, right? And then I lived in the US for about 5 years.
Awesome, yeah,
right? Before coming back to Nigeria, right? For me, again, we as a couple haven't lived in Nigeria before going.
Yeah.
For us, we were deliberate that when we got married, we wanted to stay abroad first before coming back.
Okay.
It was a given that I was going to come back to Nigeria.
Allah.
She was neither here nor there about coming back to Nigeria, but it was a deliberate. We were intentional about, you know, starting from there before coming back
here.
Right? And the reason being is because we were able to quickly analyze and agree that there you have less distractions, right? You are able to come together as a union. When I was there, I was washing plates. I was taking the trash out. I was taking in the house because you don't have help. You have to be involved. The system forces you to be involved.
Take part.
I was changing diapers. You know, I was I was doing household chores that you would not necessarily do here
In Nigeria, because you
have people to help. You know, so there, you know, for those that are aware, it puts you in a small room where you have no choice but to be involved, right? So for us, it was deliberate to start from there, right? So your question is asking about those that are living here to go there,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, we all grow up, we all have different backgrounds, different cultures, different experiences that carves us to be who we are today. But then we also need to quickly realize that there are two people becoming one, right? We must learn to accommodate each other and respect each other and be able to work as one unit. So wherever you find yourself, right? So I won't restrict it to when you japa, because when you japa, you will still japa that at some point, right? So let's not restrict it to when you japa. Wherever you find yourself, there are some core values you should have, but then you need to be intentional about what you want, you know, for your own marriage, or for your own marriage, right? In terms of your family virtues, you know, your upbringing, and all of that, right? So once you're able to define that as a couple, not as two separate individuals, as a couple, then wherever you find yourself, you'll be able to work together as a union, and you'll be able to, you know, pull up or drive your family as it should be. But again, for the youths, again, especially in today's world, right, where there are a lot of distractions, you only see the glam of what people are posting out there. I say to people, I mean, this is me, and I always keep saying this is me, right? I say to people, you don't have to go outside to prove to the world that you're in a happy marriage. You don't have to. If you're in a happy marriage, you know between yourselves we're in a happy marriage.
You have to post it on social media.
Again, you know, because I'm in a very sensitive space,
very
I always say me, and it's deliberate and it's intentional. You are free to do whatever you want to do. But what I'm saying is, you don't have to keep showing it, because I believe that the more you show, the more problems you have. You're just trying to sugarcoat it or to hide behind this facade, which is why you continue to, when you now hear of a problem, you now be surprised as to how is there a problem when, you know, last week they were doing this, last week it was still feeding him or her, you know, on social media. So again, in today's world, we know a lot of it is about media, a lot of it is about what people are saying. You know, once you are comfortable in your skin and you know what it is you have, I think the Yorubas will say tissue about, you know, meaning in English, I mean, in my own words, you know, the more successful you are or the more happy you are, you don't have to always continue to put it in people's faces. Just be happy, be content, and just, you know, do you, you know. So again, it's all about you. It's all about your values. It's about your foundation. Again, if you make your foundation Islam, right, I think it makes everything easier for you.
Now, that's a